Lads, you are very welcome back to another episode of Soulchats. I have a very interesting woman here with me today. Her name is Anne-Marie Ford. I'm going to call her my pal. You're
Yes.
my pal now.
Yeah.
That's it, you're in. You can't get out. I'm sure she's wanted to run for the hills once or twice, but I won't let her. I suppose you give yourself a little introduction and then I'll tell everybody how we met each other.
Okay. So my name is Anne-Marie Ford and I'm principal over in Tullydonnell in St. Cholmcille's National School, and that's in Togher. And I suppose I have a huge passion for children and for making sure that they can reach their potential and that they get every chance in life. And I also have a huge interest in the area of mental health, and I'm working in mental health services as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. So how I met Anne-Marie was our daughter, Charlie, is dyslexic, and we were over with her medical doctor one day and we were talking about how Charlie was really tired all the time, and we were going through one or two things, and her doctor, Dr. Avane, said, "Are you going to the meeting about the Epsom Act?" And I said, A, no, and B, what's the Epsom Act?
Yeah.
So for somebody who has a child with an additional need, I was completely unaware
Yes.
of what the Epsom Act was.
Yeah.
So myself and Neil took ourselves over to a meeting, and Anne-Marie Ford was standing at the helm and held court in that room and full of information, and I was literally blown away by some of the things that you said. So for people, just for context,
Yeah.
can you explain what the Epsom Act actually is?
Yeah, so the Epsom Act came out in 2004, and it's education for persons with special educational needs. And I've not gone into special educational need piece. I think it could be possibly better worded, but it's done anyway now. So
Okay.
education for special educational needs. And it's an act which came out in 2004, but there's parts of it that haven't been followed through.
Yeah.
And so it's up for review at the minute. And there has been a number of focus groups, one of which I've taken part in, along with parents and that. But I suppose there's a lot of parts of the Act that, in order for children to get the very best that they can, we need to look at improving it.
Yeah. Okay. So I was very enamoured with what you said that night. And I had said, look, Anne-Marie, if there's anything that I can do for you to help you give it a bit of exposure, I'd be delighted. And I said, sure, why don't we jump on and do a live stream?
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah,
And we reached a lot of people.
absolutely.
And we got a lot of information out to people like me who was completely unaware of what the Epsom Act can do for your child, and the fact that you can have an impact on influencing it in some way,
Legislation.
legislation wise. And you got, as a result of doing the live streams, you got a load of extra signatures.
Yeah, well, I suppose we reached, because of your live streaming, we reached a lot of people who might not have known that this act was being reviewed. And the idea of, I suppose, the meeting was to inform as many people as we could, so that their input could be given in and their opinions, I suppose.
And I felt like you achieved that.
Yeah.
I felt like you achieved that, and you got great traction online.
Yes,
Like lots of people with lots of support, but also lots of people asking questions.
Yes.
Because you don't know what you don't know until you know that you don't know it.
Absolutely.
Like me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then, as long as you have a space where it's a safe space to ask questions, people will.
Absolutely.
And then that has a knock-on effect on the kids. And
For
that's
sure.
all we want.
And that's all, you want the best. And I think conversation's really important. I think because the more people in a conversation, the more information you get out of it. It's really interesting in those focus groups that we were all coming up with the same answers of what we wanted.
Yeah.
There wasn't huge differences.
So after that then, you were very helpful to me, and especially to Charlie, with some challenges that she was having, and you were able to point us in the right direction and give us a lot of support, because I suppose a lot of times when dealing with a child who is not receiving the supports that they need, or that the mammy feels that they deserve, you can feel like you're banging your head against the wall and feel unheard, and that your child is slipping through the cracks. So you were able to guide me through and help me through times when I felt really, really lonely and isolated and frustrated and sad. So I want to say thanks very much to you for that.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah. And Charlie just absolutely adores you. She just lights up when she's in your company.
Oh.
She loves you.
Oh,
I love you as well.
lovely.
So then we didn't see each other for a little while.
No.
And a couple of months passed, and a couple of weeks ago only, I was at a fundraiser for Women's Aid.
That's right. Yeah.
And there was the belt, Anne-Marie Ford, looking fab as always. And big hugs and kisses all round. I was delighted to see you. And then Anne-Marie drops the bombshell. I'm running for office. And the big presumptuous head me as an independent. As an independent. And then you said, no, I'm going to run with Fine Gael.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Anne-Marie, would you not just be better off doing this on your own?
Yeah.
And I learned something recently, and I can see where you're coming from with this.
Yeah.
It's easier for you to make a difference on the inside than it is on the outside.
Absolutely.
So do you want to discuss that with me for a sec?
Yeah. So a few people actually, when I was going around the doors canvassing, said that to me, Anne-Marie, why would you not go as an independent? But I don't think I'd have ever gone as an independent because I'd never decided I was going to go into politics. This kind of came to me rather than me pursuing it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm quite busy working in mental health, running the school and early intervention classes and 4 children at home. So it wasn't on my agenda or on my, you know, it wasn't something I was going to do.
Wasn't on your radar?
No, it wasn't at all. And then somebody asked me would I consider joining Fine Gael, and I said no, and my husband said no, and the children said no way, mummy. And but then it was said to me, Anne-Marie, look, we know you've been campaigning for 3 years. We know you're very passionate about this. There's more of a chance that you'll have a platform to kind of bring your ideas and your experience to inform policy. And so as an independent, you'd possibly, like, you know, that's fine for, I suppose, your simple things, but this is a very big piece that will need many, many years. This isn't going to be solved overnight. This
You were saying 6 to 10 years.
6 to 10 years, I would imagine, because we have, you know, we're lacking in, I suppose, the therapeutic piece. We haven't got a lot of OTs or speech and language therapists, and we're short on psychologists as well. So
major shortage in psychologists to be able to get the diagnosis.
Exactly. So there's a piece around that, you know, we need to, you know, have more places, more undergraduate places in the universities, and that's going to take then time to train these people and then get them in. But I was also thinking along the piece of, you know, thinking outside the box in terms of, you know, if we were to employ these therapists through the Department of Education, and if it was school hours, a lot of our therapists are actually women who are trying to operate around children and all of that sort of thing.
As well,
So if to entice people into this, you would be thinking, well, how do we make it appealing for people to come in? So I was thinking, you know, if we were to employ these therapists through the Department of Education, that would allow for them to be able to operate around children and whatnot, and we'd have our really good skilled people back operating and doing what we need them to do, supporting our children.
Yeah, absolutely. I can recall, I've never voted Fine Gael in my life. There was one gentleman who, may he rest in peace, he was over in Duleek.
Yes.
And he was very good to me when I was starting the parent and toddler group.
Yeah.
McEntee.
Okay.
So, I've never voted Fine Gael. They were never a party that were on my radar to vote for, but the fact that you have decided to align yourself for the reasons that you've told me on camera, off camera, I can see why. Because this is so important for all children in this country. Yeah. It's not just, and I suppose we said this on the live stream actually.
Yeah.
The Epsom Act and the things that are needed for the children in this country don't only affect the child with the need.
Absolutely.
It affects, this is really important for me, for my listeners to hear, it affects the child in every classroom.
Absolutely.
Because if a child with an additional need does not have the supports that it needs, that's dragging the teacher away from looking after the rest of the students.
Absolutely.
So the Epsom Act doesn't only cater for a child with an additional need, it caters for all children, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You'd agree with that?
I would agree with that. And I think, you know, we're seeing a huge increase in children who are neurodiverse with many different needs. And, you know, the government have put a lot of extra support. There's definitely been an increase in the amount of support given. However, there's been an enormous increase in the amount of children with needs. So it's about looking at a different way of how do we approach this? How do we manage this situation? And for me, I think because this has kind of come at us, that we've seen a huge increase in neurodiversity over the last number of years. The stats for autism, for example, are 1 in 20. What do we need to do here? So there's been a kind of a reactive approach. We open classes and we, but there's not enough, in my opinion, oversight in that as to where a child has been placed, because in my opinion, we need to be striving for children to really reach their optimal potential and give them every chance in the very early formative years. Yeah. So you might ask me, well, how do we do that, Anne-Marie? And I'd be saying early intervention all the way. So like example, health. If you're talking about health, if you're talking about somebody who has found a tumour or found a lump, the earlier you get in,
Absolutely.
the better the prognosis. And it's the very same with education and therapeutics. The earlier we get in relation to education, for parents to understand, for teachers to understand. So teacher training, really important.
I'm really glad that you described it that way, Anne-Marie, because what it does is it gives us a visual.
Yeah.
Because everybody can identify with that.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really powerful. That kind of gave me a bit of a jolt there when you said that.
Yeah.
If you try and associate that back to a medical diagnosis.
Absolutely. But it is,
you're
to
not
a degree.
Throw, the way a lot of time is thrown at these kids that need support and they don't get it.
Yes.
You're not going to say to a woman, now listen, you have cervical cancer, but you know what we're going to do?
Yeah.
We're going to put you on a waiting list. It's going to be about 2.5 years.
No good.
3 years. Sorry. Gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Expired.
Yeah. And there's a very small window of opportunity, and this is why I feel so passionate about the early years. And I suppose my training in psychotherapy has taught me that what happens to us in those very early years plays out later on in life, whether you're neurotypical or whether you're neurodiverse. But what I would say about the neurodiverse child is they're more susceptible, they're more vulnerable to we'll say traumas. Something for you or I as a neurotypical, we might say, oh, well, sure, that didn't bother me. It kind of,
water off a duck's back.
Yeah. Whereas with a neurodiverse child, sometimes they're a little bit more vulnerable to a trauma, and it can stay with them a bit longer. So I think it's really vital that we train our teachers so that they understand how different brains work. And teachers want to learn, and our teachers work so hard, and I think it's unfair. I see a lot of my teachers coming to me, newly trained teachers, and saying, but Anne-Marie, we didn't do any of this in our training colleges. And I think it's really important that they are equipped with the knowledge. Because it's very interesting as well when we look at all different type of brain types and why one person might...
It's only fair.
Yeah.
That they have the tools.
Absolutely.
And now the visual I'm after getting in my mind is, we're never going to say to a surgeon, you need 15 tools to perform this surgery. Yeah. But you know what, pal? We're going to give you 8.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
We're never doing that.
No.
We're giving them everything that they need in that moment.
Absolutely. And also, like from the other perspective, I often say to myself, you can look at it in two ways. There's great gift that comes with neurodiversity, but there's also difficulties as well. And nobody chooses that, nobody chooses that, Nicola. And so, why should it be a choice not to train to understand that way of thinking or that way of being in the world? So I think it's really important that we do have a good understanding. So that the early intervention piece, and I suppose I'd be looking at it from the point of view of early intervention. So when you bring your baby to the public health nurse and you're looking at the milestones, and the public health nurse might say, I just, I wouldn't mind a second opinion on that. And there's a query that there may be some support needed. I don't think we should be looking at an assessment. I don't think we should be putting our children on a waiting list for an assessment to say, we think something needs support here. Let's put you on a waiting list for an assessment. We can identify and say, this child needs early intervention of some sort now, this minute, intervention now. Yeah. We'll sort out the assessment down the road in 3 years' time when we know exactly, and we've given this child. Yes. And it may be a case that child will come out and will say, the intervention work, that's great, off we go into mainstream. But we need to be getting in early, and what I would be looking at is a wraparound service. So, psychiatrist at the top with maybe paediatrics. Now, this is my dream, of course. Yeah. OT, speech and language, psychotherapy, psychology, and social work. Yeah. So that we're getting in really early with all these different interventions, working as a multi-D team and working with teachers in early intervention classes so that everyone working together can make sure there's the best outcome for the child. So we're not looking at a reactive approach. Oh, you're not able for mainstream, so therefore you're going into, we'll say, a specialised class. That we're given the early intervention to give every chance possible for these children to succeed and to go into mainstream classes and to reach their potential. Now, there will always be a need for specialised classes, you know, and I'm not saying we're negating that, but we want to give every child the best opportunity by getting in early with the best trained teachers, the best therapists, throw the kitchen sink and all at it. And even like, you know, those children who maybe might not have been picked up in the early years, if we had this wraparound service associated with our schools, that you would have picking up these issues so that we don't have mental services that are full to capacity and waiting lists.
The knock-on effect of
it's
that.
huge.
We need to be more proactive than reactive. And we also need to listen to the mammies.
Absolutely.
We need to listen to the mammies.
Absolutely.
Because as you were talking, I know this is unrelated,
but
it's an example of when a mammy is not listened to.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when the day that Jamie was born, our first son, I said to the doctor and the nurse, there's something wrong with his breathing.
Yeah.
And they went and they did they can't stand this. Now, mammy. Now you're just very protective. And I said, I'm telling you, lads, there's something wrong with his breathing. That breathing's not normal. They got a specialist in. Neil's brother, my husband's brother, had passed away when he was a month old from cystic fibrosis. They thought it might be that. They called it a specialist. Neil had a gene testing. Turns out he didn't have the gene. Then they struck it off and said, no, it's not that. And I was like, well, it could be a million other things. Wasn't listened to. 2 weeks later, we found Jamie non-responsive. Okay. Because Jamie actually had laryngomalacia, which is a floppy larynx, and he used to forget how to breathe. Yeah. So only for we were like on it ourselves. If I had just went, oh, okay then, and accepted it for what it was, we might not have a Jamie Bourne sitting here today.
Absolutely.
Do you know? So,
and there's something to be said about the mother's instinct and feeling, like, you know,
instinct in general.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, when a mum comes to a nurse or to a doctor and says, I'm just not, I'll always listen to a mum in school and I'll always say, is that your feeling on this? Is that your instinct? And I'll really listen to the mum because there's a connection there.
They know better.
There's a connection.
It's the mothership.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's the mothership.
Yeah.
Okay. The first time, I didn't realise when I went to that first meeting with regards to the Epsom Act, I didn't realise that I had seen you on social media before, right?
Okay, yeah.
So there was an article written about you or a radio interview or something about you were asked to make a decision about two kids.
Yeah.
Can you tell my audience about that, please? Because I was really, like, I cried when I read that.
Well, I suppose this is my reason for, one of my reasons for getting into political piece is, I suppose, my heart and the love I have for children, and not just the children in Tullydonnell, but children all over Ireland who deserve a chance. And it shouldn't be a case that any school has to go and fight like what we did in Tullydonnell.
Well, can I just point out to my listeners, my kids are nothing to do with Tullydonnell. So I needed help, and I reached out to Anne-Marie, and I got that help. Yeah. So when she says that she loves all kids, she really does. She really does.
But I think, like, you know, as a country and as a community, we should be there for each other. It doesn't matter whether you live in Galway or whether you live in Sligo.
I do the same myself for kids that are in trouble when they're in trouble with other areas. Yes. But, you know, I drop what I'm doing when it comes to the kids, and my clients will confirm that. Yeah. When it comes to the kids, I drop what I'm doing to get to the kids.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
You know, we have to mind them.
We do have to mind them because as I said earlier on, what happens in the early years plays out later. So
absolutely,
you know,
it's what you put, what goes into the cat comes out of the kitten.
Absolutely. So
tell us about the article that was
written. So what happened in Tullydonnell was as I told you, I feel really strongly, and I've done a lot of research in King's College in London and in Trinity College around the area of early intervention, the early years, and the importance of putting the work in early, and that neuroplasticity of the brain, that the brain's so malleable in the early years that we can do a lot of work with it. So we had done this work with some of our little kiddies in the early intervention class, and it was really successful, and we were so proud. We celebrated their success and we went, yay, they're going, you know, and the mum and dads wanted them to come to Tullydonnell. So we said, of course, no problem, we'd be delighted to have them. And we applied for SNA support. So they would have had a ratio of, we'll say, 6 children to 3 adults in the class. So 2 children to 1 adult. So we thought there should be no problem at all about getting support in.
You would think.
Yeah. And I maybe naively thought everybody will celebrate this success too, because it worked, you know. But that wasn't the case. You can't teach people to care,
Anne-Marie.
Yeah, well.
You can't teach people to care.
So that's what happened. And it was a case that, you know, we weren't given the support. Now, I do think, you know, a lot of services have their own way of doing things, and there's a lot that needs to be improved with services, but that's another story. I suppose from my perspective, our job was to try and do the best for the children. So we didn't get what we needed, and so we wrote various letters, and we still didn't get what we needed. So we decided, right, we're going to go up to the Dáil, and the government are going to help us. So we marched on the Dáil, and eventually, yes, we did get... we got some people to come to the school and to investigate, I suppose, what the situation was in the school. Now, I suppose the one thing I would say about that was it was very hard on parents.
In what sense now?
So if you can imagine that your child has been diagnosed with, whether it be ADHD or autism or whatever you might want to call it, that takes a while to process as a mum, you know. It's you worry about your children, and if there's anything else that puts another layer on top of that, that's tough. So some of these parents were still processing what was going on for their children and trying to come to terms with it. And maybe some hadn't maybe even shared with their own families the intimate details of what was going on. But I suppose they had to lay their souls bare to fight and beg for the support and to really justify. Okay. And I found that really tough. Yeah.
Cap in hand.
Yeah.
Cap in hand.
Yeah. It was really
Please,
tough.
sir, can I have some more? Yeah.
But also you're sharing intimate details about your
Very
baby.
vulnerable.
About your baby, yeah. And that's not okay. That's not okay, Nicola, on any level.
No.
You know, like people who are suffering, who are in the midst of dealing with difficult circumstances, we need that wraparound service. We need to wrap our arms around those people and say, we're here for you. Yeah. We'll give you everything you need. We'll make this as okay as we can make it, you know. And we didn't feel like that at the time. It was really difficult. And I suppose that kind of fired me up to say, I don't want to see any other schools or principals or parents, and especially not children, have to, because some of our children come in and spoke as well and kind of gave their opinion. And they're great little advocates for themselves, you know, and so well able to articulate. Like, I was shocked by some of, because I was in all the meetings, you know, but I just think, you know, it's not a blame game, Nicola, but I suppose situations like this highlight things that need to be improved. And it's a very complex picture, so you can't say, oh, if you did this would work. It's a really complex picture when you pull back, because again, I mentioned the reactive piece. There had to be a reactive approach, because this really escalated in last 6 to 10 years. I'd say this has really escalated. And so when something comes at you and you're not prepared for it, you react to it. Whereas now I think it's time to pause, to slow down, to pull back, and to look at what we're doing and maybe look at a better way, you know.
I know you said that this is not a blame game, but somebody needs to take responsibility for this. There has to be accountability. Yeah. Our ability to respond and not react, and to be able to account and say, that worked, that didn't work, this is right, this is wrong, let's take a new action.
Yeah, and I think also the piece around understanding. So understanding the complexity of it, and understanding, you know, understanding what children need, and understanding and having the bar set high and saying, actually, they can surprise us. And what you see isn't always what you've got. You know, I see so many children on a day-to-day basis, and the question I always have asked in our school is, what does a mainstream child look like? A child looks like a child.
There's no such thing as normal.
No. We're all different, and we all have something to bring to the table.
Absolutely. Am I right in saying, I think this is the piece that got me at the time, am I right in saying that you had to choose between which child got the SNA?
That was, at the time, it was a case of you redeploy or you, you know, it prioritised who is the most needy.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do that.
Yeah, the
because,
bit that got me was that you said, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, go you. I don't know who you are, but you're deadly. We need more of that. We need more people putting in the stop sign and saying, actually, no.
No, exactly.
Not good enough.
Yeah.
Not on my shift, not on my watch.
Yes, yeah.
So I was proud of you for that one now.
Well, I think, you know, like that, and I always do, actually, even in school, I always use the analogy of the hospital. If you were asked to do something similar on a ward and somebody needed, I don't know, their blood pressure done and somebody else needed, and it was a case of, right, we've only got one blood pressure machine, you know, choose which one you're going to check to see if their blood pressure's okay.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that.
No, you wouldn't.
You know, or, you know, somebody needs like assistance in because of they're incapacitated some way. You wouldn't say, oh, well, you pick the one there that needs the support more in the hospital.
I'm really glad that you're describing it like this, Anne-Marie, because I'm a visual teacher.
Yes.
And that image is going to stay in people's minds.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah. But when we always have to remember, when we're looking at children in a classroom, we have a responsibility for the outcome. So, like in a hospital, if you've got somebody who goes in and they're sick, you have a responsibility for the outcome, and you need to be able to justify the person lived or they died, they got better, or they need to come back for extra care. And it's the same in a school situation. We need to be able to justify our actions and what we're doing. And if it's not good enough, and even if the resources aren't there or whatnot, if it's not good enough, we need to be able to say, but that's not okay.
Do you know, you're an absolute rarity for a teacher to say that, to be able to justify the outcome. I think that's very admirable. Very admirable.
But it's a big responsibility.
It's a massive responsibility.
It's a huge, you've got people's lives in your hands, you know.
Absolutely. And I don't think that some teachers in this country understand the power that they hold in that. You know, that needs to be, like, I think they need to be reminded nearly of the power that they hold when it comes to accountability, responsibility and justifying. But that's a whole other podcast, Anne-Marie.
I have to say, any of the teachers I've worked with now are second to none. So
I've met your teachers, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
What is your main priorities when you win?
Oh, I don't know if I will win, but...
Well, you can cut that talk out straight away on this podcast, Anne-Marie, I'm telling you now. We're not here for the winning. We're here we're not here for the losing. We're here for the winning. We're here to win, the end.
Well, I suppose, look, my belief is that we go down a journey. You're brought on a journey for a reason, and whether I get in or whether I don't get in, I will continue with my campaign. I will continue to fight this battle. I suppose the three areas that I have put down that I'm really interested in are the early intervention piece and the children, because that's very close to my heart. The mental health piece, I think we really need to, I think our services post-pandemic are stretched really to capacity, and the early intervention piece, of course, would alleviate that, would alleviate addiction services, would alleviate A&E waiting lists, would alleviate respite services, would sort out a lot of the criminal justice system.
Anne-Marie, you're speaking my language here now. You're speaking my language, because I have invented an equation.
Okay.
That if this and this are done now, it's going to save the country billions.
Oh, absolutely.
Billions.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah. Me and you need to do something about this together. I have to share my theorem with you. My equation, I'm telling you now.
Yeah, no, it is. It's all about getting in early and, you know, changing our thinking about how we do things. Just because something was always done in a certain way doesn't mean we continue. There can always be a better way.
Absolutely. And refine and refine and refine. And listen, if we go down that road of this is how we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to do it. Stagnancy. Nothing good happens in a pond.
No.
Nothing good happens in a pond. Give me a babbling brook all day long. Movement, change, let's go.
Absolutely.
So you've covered now the piece for the kids,
mental health.
And what's the third one?
And the third piece is very close to my heart as well. It's the elderly.
Yeah, so
and
I have down here
dignity for the elderly.
Tell me the story about your dad.
Well, I suppose my dad had Parkinson's disease, and you know, I suppose it's difficult, no more than a parent with a child who, you know, when something doesn't go according to plan. But I mean, it was a lovely story, and Dad was a great man. Dad inspired me. He was a principal of a school himself in Mel, and he really inspired me. Dad used to always say, if you look down at a little child's hands, you know, if you look down at a little child's hands, you'll remember how really young and small they are. And, you know, that has always stayed with me and inspired me in my work. But I do think, you know, I think we need to invest in our carers. I think we need to invest in, you know, those who are caring for our elderly. That's a really important job. These people have given their lives, they have wisdom, they have experience behind them, they have looked after us. And I think we need to really respect our older people and the wisdom that comes with that, and speak to them in a respectful way, you know, and provide care for them so that they can stay in their own homes, so that they don't have to feel that they have to leave their home, that the care can come to them. But the care needs to be adequate, and in order to get care that's good, I think we need to look at paying those who are doing the care. So paying them a good wage, training them properly, like, you know, the teachers and the SNAs, training and paying people appropriately, and you will get a good service. And that's what we need for our elderly.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think it helps then the middle generation. So the sons and daughters of the elderly who are also maybe having children, you know, we're caught in the middle, and it's important that, you know, for us to be well, we need to have support in looking after our elderly and our young people.
Yeah. I have always said, if we look after the young and the old, the middle bit will look after itself.
Absolutely, 100%.
So when you go into office, what would you like to achieve?
So I suppose, you know, even going around the doors there over the last week or so, I was speaking to people, and number one, I suppose I just love to bring that idea of hearing the people on the ground, you know, hearing what people need and what they want, discussing that, giving people a voice. I think it's really important for people to feel heard. When people don't feel heard, they get annoyed, and rightly so.
And insignificant.
Yeah.
They feel insignificant.
That they haven't got a voice, or
and that they can't make a difference.
Absolutely. And everyone can make a difference. And I think the more voices we have to bring to a table, the more, you know, the better comes out of it, I suppose. And I suppose, like, obviously, I really want to get policy right, that early intervention piece right. I really would love to see that. That would be my first priority.
Okay.
Obviously, there's all the pothole piece and lampposts and all that. That to me is easy. You know, the other issues are much greater issues that are going to take a long, long time to sort out. But because they're going to take a long, long time, it's an urgent matter. We need to be getting in now.
That needs the attention now.
But
anybody can fill in a pothole and stick up a lamppost.
Well, you can, like, I mean, it's easy put in a representation on that.
Absolutely.
This is a thinking thing. So this is like having to bring your experience, your knowledge, your evidence base. And I'm all about evidence based. Don't say, oh, we're going to do something. Where's the evidence? And we know early intervention is evidence based. So it's about turning that around and improving that and fine tuning that at the minute. I mean, where you could go on forever about what you could do or what you couldn't do, but I'd love to get into informed policy. That would be, and just to bring my knowledge, to bring my learning and my experience to the table, and to say this is what I believe will work.
Okay.
And then I think consultation with others as well is really important, to listen to the experience of others. There
Absolutely.
are so many, and parents, as you said earlier, Nicola, so many parents who have instincts, who know, and who can bring their experience, and I think that's really important too.
Absolutely. How do you think that this can be done?
So teacher training is really important. I don't know if you're aware, there's an admissions policy. So the admissions policy was updated. So, you know, no child can be refused on basis of needs to a school. So we're going to see a lot more children coming into mainstream schools, you know, with different needs. And in order to support them, we need our teachers to be trained. Otherwise, it's going to become really difficult and overwhelming for teachers. And we really have to support them with the SNA support in the classroom. Because again, it will be very difficult, as you said earlier on, to teach every child and for every child to get the best out of that classroom experience if we don't have the support in the classroom. So that's
it
really,
helps everyone.
it helps everybody. And then the wraparound supports is really important. So your multi-D team, I do think you need psychiatry in there as well, but I'm thinking that if you have this early intervention team with all those people I spoke about, you know, social workers, physio, OT, SLT, psychology, psychotherapy, you know, if you've all that group of people together with oversight and informing schools, then they're like your net. So like, you know, they're going to catch anybody so that they don't slip through the net. So it's going to stop the escalation. So you're not going to have as many people going to mental health services because their OT needs or their whatever needs they are going to be met early on. Their psychology needs are going to be met, and their parents are going to be brought in and they're going to be advised. So it's never going to escalate up into a big, because our mental health services for children are for moderate to severe mental health. So let's get in before it escalates up to that, you know.
And then that won't have a knock-on effect on the parents.
Absolutely.
And the families.
Absolutely. So, you know, it's all about getting in early and getting that seen too early so that all other services are not affected. And I think then those services can stand alone and do the work they have to do without feeling pressurised, because, you know, it's burnout then for everybody. And
Absolutely.
that's, you know.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it firsthand. Why do you think you'll be the best candidate to do this?
Oh, well, I'm not really good at singing my own praise.
Anne-Marie, I'm telling you now, if you ruin my brand now, we'll be having words.
Well, I
Be
suppose
honest.
I care. Look, I'm passionate about what I do, and you know me, you saw what I did. I won't take no for an answer if I think it's wrong.
No, she's like a dog with a bone.
Yeah.
Now listen, you not being able to speak honestly about why you're going to be the best candidate. Most people make the mistake of thinking that that's humility.
Yeah.
It's not humility.
Okay.
It's you just not being able to give yourself a compliment.
Yes.
And women in Ireland really, really struggle with this. And this is what I'm really good at.
Yes.
Okay.
You are.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
You see, I can take that compliment because it's true.
Well, I wouldn't have gone out campaigning only for you when I came over to you that day and you said, stop making this about you, Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
You know, and like that changed my mindset, because I was thinking about, oh no, and like, why am I going out and I have to knock on doors and all of that? And
You
then
were
I
so
thought,
nervous.
so nervous, because it's not me. It doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah.
I'm about school and children and services and service provision. And so this was a completely different ball game for me. But I kind of thought to myself, you know, you really want to make a difference here. And I actually think Simon Harris now, as the new Taoiseach, I think he has a brother, and I heard him speak, and he said that what brought him into politics was the loneliness his family felt when his brother Adam got a diagnosis of autism, and that they were at sea, they didn't know what to do. Yeah. And that experience pushed him into politics to make a change. And I suppose I can see myself wanting to make a change for the better for families and for children as well. And when you feel really passionate and driven for something, you can achieve whatever you need to achieve. I mean, we got what we needed in our school. So we were successful. Now, I want no other school to
ever have to go through
there.
that.
Exactly. Or no other parent to have to go through that. And so I want to improve things from the inside and inform policy. And I work hard. I work hard, and I listen to people. As a psychotherapist, you have to listen to people. Yeah. So I do feel I can bring that too. I suppose I've a track record of working very hard.
You do, I know you do.
Yeah.
But I want to explain to people as well that piece of advice that I gave you when I said stop making it about you. It's about the kids that need you. Yeah. That piece of advice was given to me, I want to say 8 or 9 years ago, by a lovely lady, a mentor of mine back then. Her name is Bernie Allen.
Okay.
She checks in on me still every now and again to make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
And when I put my first workshop together for empowerment for women, I was a nervous wreck. So this workshop came to me when I was out running one day.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, but I could share that with more than just one person at a time. What if I just had a room full of women, and then I could share it with multiple, because there's only one of me and there's millions of women who need this.
Yeah. But
then when it came to the crunch, I refused to go out into the room.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going out there.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Like Neil will tell you, I had to be coaxed to go into the room. But Bernie said to me, it's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah.
You have the information that they need.
Yes.
It's your responsibility to share it.
Yeah.
And as soon as she said that to me, I was like, whoa, Okay.
Absolutely.
I can do that. I can
And
absolutely
I can
do that.
really relate to that, because that is the exact same for me. I have information that I have learned over the last number of years that I know can inform best practice to help children, to help families, and to take the stress that people are experiencing when they get a diagnosis off them, so that they're not feeling at sea, that there's a wraparound team there to say, it's okay, we got you.
And that's the exact reason why I do my job.
Yes.
Is because I have a lot of tools.
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience.
Yes.
And I know there's women out there struggling with confidence, their value, belief, their self-esteem is on the floor. Maya Angelou said, when you get, give, and when you learn, teach.
Yes.
So when you have information, give it away.
Yeah.
And,
exactly.
and you have to throw the rope back.
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
to throw the rope back to other people all the time.
Yeah.
To ease the pain and ease the burden.
Yeah.
You know? So knowing you and the way that you'd be carrying on about yourself half the time, I said to myself, how's this one going to cope now, knocking on doors? And I was worried about you. I was like, right, hang on now. There's a lot of people in Ireland that wouldn't hold Fine Gael in high regard.
Okay.
People are pissed off with how Simon Harris has ended up as Taoiseach. People think there should have been a general election and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to myself, there's our Anne-Marie out there now. She's not even part of the party yet. She's knocking on the doors. She's going to be, connecting, asking people for votes because she wants to make a change from the inside out on something that is important to her. But I felt like you were going to get a load of flack from people that historically are annoyed with people who are nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
How
and in
has
actual
it been?
fact, no, it's not. It's been really like on the whole, the huge majority of people are just so lovely. And I think once they know what I'm about and why I'm going down the road I'm going down, they get it and they understand it, that it's about making a change and coming with a little bit of insight and experience. I mean, I'm 28 years now in the teaching profession. We've 4 early intervention classes.
You must be only a baby when you started. A baby you were when you started.
But, I think when we talk about policy or when we make decisions, I always think it's so important to get the people who are working on the ground. So, whether it's the principal of the school or the teacher in the classroom or the SNA, I'll always bring everybody in our school together and say, what do you think of this? What do you think? The more what you think you get, the more you refine what you're going to do. And it's the same in a hospital. I don't think we should ever build a hospital without asking the nurses and doctors, what way do you want to arrange this room? Or, when we're looking at policy around anything to do with medicine, get the people on the ground who are doing the job and who know where the problems are arising to inform you.
Absolutely.
And there has to be connect. It can't be a disconnect between policy and those who are implementing policy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Communication, belonging, bring everybody along.
Absolutely.
Ask the people on the ground the questions.
For sure. Yeah. And you won't get it wrong then, because they will come up with all the problems and you can form a solution then to those problems together.
That's literally like what I just did for Warrior Women last Saturday.
Yeah.
I let the client decide the agenda.
There you go.
What do you need?
Yes.
You tell me what you need, and I'll provide the solutions and the work and the tools that you need to get over that exact issue.
Absolutely. And that's the confidence. There's confidence in that, because if you're confident in what you do and in the message you're bringing, you won't mind. If you know your stuff, you won't mind what people bring to the table, because you'll be able to say, that's a really good idea, or tell me a bit more about that. And you won't have to put a defence up against it. The worst thing you can do is defend the indefensible. Don't defend something if you shouldn't be defended. If you shouldn't, if something's not right, say, that's not right.
That's not right. I don't know how I'm going to fix it, but I'm going to find out.
And can you help me?
Yeah.
Have you any ideas?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So listen, I'm going to give you the last word.
Yeah.
What do you want the people to know? What do you want to leave the people with?
I suppose from the perspective, I'm going to be going around doors now. I've been in Clogherhead, fabulous people in Clogherhead. I'll be going over to my old ground in Termonfeckin, where I worked for 14, 15 years. Right. And I'll be going to Tullydonnell and Walshistown and Monaster Boyce and some parts of Drogheda. And I suppose if people have questions for me, I mightn't have the answers. I am happy to find them out. I'll be giving out my number for anyone who needs.
Brilliant.
And I suppose even on any of the other areas in relation to people see somebody coming for the loud county council or whatever, and they're thinking lampposts and potholes. I'm also there in the capacity of I can give advice around education or around if there's anything to do with mental health, those areas that I'm interested in, that I've got knowledge on. So if anybody is struggling around wanting to ask advice around something, they'll have my number, and they're more than welcome to give me a buzz at any stage. Yeah. And I suppose maybe to consider me for their number one vote. That would be the message to get out, hopefully. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Anne-Marie, I am just delighted that you're in my life.
And likewise, Nicola.
I'm delighted that I know that I can pick up the phone to you anytime that I need because most times when I ring you, it's like I'm upset. Like I ring you when I'm like, I can't do this. What am I going to do? Oh my God, my poor child. You're great to soundboard stuff off. Yeah. And I wish you the very best of luck in all that you do and all your endeavours in the school and up there in the Dáil. I think the way in which you're going about it, I'm loving every bit of it. Delighted to be able to help you a couple of weeks ago when you were having a wobble. I was like, I'm not having this. I'm not having this. But I think you're brilliant, and I think you're going to be able to make a massive difference in this country, and I'm going to be cheerleading you all the way. And when I see you standing in the Dáil on the first day, I'll be standing in my living room with a glass of champagne cheering you on.
Well, I don't know now, Nicola, to get into the county council will be the first step.
Well, you'll get in there and then you'll get up there. That's what's going to happen.
I don't know, but look, if I can get in and share my knowledge, that's all I want to do. Get in and share my knowledge and improve things, and I'll be happy out with that. I'll step out and say thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, listen, the best of luck.
Thank you, Nicola.
Thanks a million for being on my podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to have you. I'm delighted to have you. Yeah. So check out Anne-Marie. I'll put in all of her details. You'll be able to reach out to her directly, and I know for sure she absolutely will get back to you. And join us next time on Soulchats.